You're watching Novi Pulse, a show that lets you, the viewer, get an inside look at the trends and the people who run today's local and global businesses in the community of Novi. I'm Greg Chapman, and together we'll see what it takes to be a leader in Novi. ITC Transmission is in the business of transmitting high-voltage electricity throughout southeastern Michigan, providing the gateway for energy delivery to the Midwest and for the international markets to our neighbors in Canada. ITC is the nation's first fully independent, for-profit transmission business and began operations in March 2003. ITC's focus is transmission investments in infrastructure to enhance reliability and relieve congestion and to lower the delivered energy cost to consumers. ITC Transmission's service territory covers approximately 7,600 square miles throughout 13 counties in Michigan, including the metropolitan areas of Detroit and Ann Arbor, which have a population of approximately 4.9 million. ITC has recently acquired a company which will allow ITC to provide energy transmission to most of the lower peninsula of Michigan. Currently, through their facilities, they include about 2,700 circuit miles of overhead and underground transmission lines, 16,000 towers and poles, and 30 stations connecting their facilities. Today, we have the opportunity to speak with the CEO of ITC Transmission, Mr. Joseph Welch. Joe, it's a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Good afternoon. I'm glad to be here.
Great. Joe, can you tell us a little bit about ITC?
Well, there's really not much to tell. You know, like you said in the introduction, we're the high voltage electric transmission system in southeastern Michigan. We're the first independent company. We've been in business just slightly more than 3 years. And we've had, a lot of work to do. We've been through blackouts. We've seen huge constraints on the system, meaning power can't get to the places where it's going. The people that work for ITC have done a tremendous job. We've put approximately $300 million worth of investment into the grid over that 3-year period.
Wow.
And I think we're about 400 to 450 employees strong right now, including the people who are doing our construction work. And we have a lot of construction going on out in the field. So I never get to stop and say, can I tell you about ITC? It's like it's been an ongoing show every day.
Yeah, it sounds like it, definitely.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit how you started out as an engineer and then worked your way up to CEO as the company's, the nation's first independently owned transmission company?
Well, I grew up in rural Kansas, and up and literally until about the day of reckoning being within about a month before graduation, I really didn't have a clue as to what I was going to do.
Oh wow!
And I actually thought that I'd go into the Air Force and become a career person, because the most successful person I knew was my uncle, and he was a career Air Force man, so I thought that's what I'd do. And had a guidance counselor at high school tell me that they didn't think that would be the right decision for me to make. And so I kind of pondered that a little bit, and then I went home and announced I was going to go to school, and I decided to go to the University of Kansas. Became an electrical engineer, graduated in a time frame that was not a good economic period, and not many jobs available, and so I was able to get a job at Detroit Edison in 1971, and just literally kind of worked my way up through the ranks, had a lot of different jobs, and did a lot of different things, and spent my whole career at Detroit Edison up until about 3.5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And I'd actually decided at that point I was going to retire, and a group of investors from New York had decided that they wanted to get into the transmission business, and so they bought the assets of what are ITC today from Detroit Edison, and gave me the opportunity to step in and run it. So I never had that career that just ultimately takes you to the CEO land.
Yeah, exactly.
I started off and was just an engineer, and really had a lucky break.
That's fabulous. That's an impressive career path.
Yeah.
With all the different locations around Southeast Michigan, why did you choose Novi as your place to headquarter ITC?
Well, there was a lot of reasons, none of which I got lobbied hard by several of our employees that they really love the Novi area. But more importantly, we were trying to find a place where our employees could have a good work environment, where we had amenities that were nearby. And Novi was hands down one of those areas that just offered the most. And so we looked for a spot and got ourselves some available office space and started from there. We're actually at the point now where we're going to build a new office. We've grown to the point where we've outgrown the lease space, and we're rearranging partitions and everything in there to the point where we're probably trying to get about a size 15 foot and a size 10 shoe. Yeah. And need to go, and the site selection is pretty much done, and we're working through the process. Novi is where we're going to be for a long time unless something goes wrong.
That's great. That's good to hear. Now, can you tell me a little bit about the reasons why DTE spun off their transmission assets and why you ultimately took ITC public?
Well, actually, you know, it wasn't a spin-off. I don't want to correct anyone, but it was an actual sale. A spin-off is, of course, where a company will say, well, look, this business has more value to our shareholders, and so we'll issue stock and give the business to the shareholders. And then they have a pretty heavy hand in setting, you know, who's going to run it and everything, because they set the company up. Actually, DTE had decided that transmission was no longer strategic to their long-term business future, and decided to sell it. So this was actually done in a competitive auction where I believe there were 6 bidders that had bid for it, and we actually paid $610 million for that system when we bought it from DTE, and set about as a private company and built it from there. And of course, we are now listed on the New York Stock Exchange, so it's no longer a private company. It's a publicly traded New York Stock Exchange company.
Wow. And now with this going public, obviously things have been changing in the industry.
Yeah.
What trends are you seeing right now in the industry in terms of energy transmission?
Well, you know, it's really amazing that something as old and viewed as stable as the electric utility business is, that you know, you have seen multiple trends over the last 10 years, from people diversifying, going into other businesses because the utility business doesn't seem quite as lucrative as what other people want. But what you see today now is the announcement that everyone is back to basics, meaning we're going to stick with just the traditional electric utility business. At ITC, we never were anything but back to basics. We didn't have anything else, and I don't think, you know, for the foreseeable future we'll do anything. Transmission itself, as a subset of the utility business, is probably the absolute key to making the whole electric grid, well, the transmission system is the grid, but to making the whole marketplace as we know it today work. All of your reliability, and I'm talking about the broad scale reliability, the things that cause or prevent blackouts, is driven primarily by the transmission grid. Historically, for the last 30 years, the transmission system has been fairly, across the country, fairly neglected. And very minor investments been put into it. Several studies done by research groups say that we as a country need to put about $100 billion into the transmission grid to get it back into the shape that it needs to be. At a federal level, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission is really working hard to give incentives to people to invest in the transmission grid to rebuild it. In addition to that, ever since the blackout, national reliability standards are now being put into place. Something that we at ITC fought for and testified to, and thought that it was you know, a criminal shame that those things were not in place. So the focus has been primarily on getting the transmission infrastructure rebuilt, and a lot of utilities now, some of the major utilities are now really starting to focus on transmission. We'd like to do that, of course, ourselves, but the fact of the matter is getting a robust transmission grid for customers is the right thing, and we're glad that it's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it prevents, you know, any future outages like we had back in.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that.
No, we definitely don't want to. Now, with all these trends taking place, I mean, how is that impacting ITC? Is this opening up the door for investment, or obviously with new companies? It's
well, because a lot of people are looking at transmission, and there are pockets across the whole United States where, for whatever reason, a lot of the utilities are not stepping up and saying, hey, let us build that transmission. So those are creating other pockets of opportunities for companies like ITC. We just recently formed another company, ITC Grid Development, and we have just opened up an office in Kansas.
Okay.
And we intend to go to Kansas and try to do there what we've done in Michigan, which is start the rebuilding process. There, they don't have the fundamental tenets of a grid that we have in Michigan. It's really needs a lot of work, and we want to work with the utilities there to the maximum extent possible to make this a win-win situation. But we have no misgivings. We're there to build transmission and rebuild it for the people in Kansas, just like we were doing here in Michigan.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty impressive. And another thing that I found impressive about ITC and the way that you run your organization and your commitment to excellence is how you are benchmarking against international standards versus domestic standards. Can you kind of expand on that?
Well, as hard as it is for everyone to believe, and it's hard for me to believe, but the top performing transmission systems are not in the United States. And we have a commitment to become best in class. And so we actually had to look long and hard to get into and become part of an international benchmarking study to see how we really stack up against the best. And the good news is that we're in the hunt. The bad news is we're not the best, and we have a lot of work to do to get there. The European systems especially have been much better invested in and much better cared for than they have been here in the United States, and hence their performance is better. We're also very interested in looking at things that people don't benchmark yet today, but we're really pushing those people that we do the benchmarking to start to help us get metrics for that. We're not only interested in being the best in performance, but we want to make sure that whatever the metric is, whether it's a breaker replacement or a breaker periodic or a bus inspection, that we can do that for less cost, fewer hours. We have a really good skilled trades force that works for us, and these guys have been truly innovative. And we want to see how they stack up too, because I think they're as competitive as we are. So they'd like to be number one too.
Yep, absolutely. That's great. When we come back, we're going to get some insight into what makes Joe successful.
Last month, I adjusted my thermostat a few degrees a day to lower my energy bill. Experts say that helps reduce air pollution. I say, cha-ching. Morning, Carl.
Morning. Environmental defense. Get green. For more tips, go to getgreen.com.
Every week we return all our cans and bottles. Yeah, we help to reduce the world's waste.
But aluminum? It's like gold.
There's a can.
Where?
Get it.
Environmental defense. Get green. For more tips, go to getgreen.com.
I'm Greg Chapman, and you're watching Novi Pulse. Today joining us is Joseph Welch, CEO of ITC Transmission. Joe, what do you find most valuable or fulfilling about what you do?
Well, I think the number one thing is it's a lot of fun. It's absolutely just a lot of fun. To think that one day you have bought a transmission system that is an established piece of infrastructure here in Southeast Michigan, and you only have a couple of employees. The first day we were there, we had 38 employees, but when people pick up the phone and they need service, they expect you to be a full service company. So putting the company together, growing the company, financing the company, IPOing the company, becoming listed on the New York Stock Exchange. I think every day has been like a new chapter in a book, and I'm not sure how many chapters are in the book, but it has just been a continuum of excitement and bringing in and hiring a lot of people. And seeing a lot of people now coming out of school and starting their careers in there. So from my standpoint, those are all the exciting things. That's what gets me up in the morning and gets me going again.
Yeah, absolutely. So you would say the ability to come into the organization, you've got all this new energy, and you having the capability to run, manage, and work with all these people is really what keeps you going.
Yeah, and to see that the business model and the way that you thought a business should be run, to get to play that out and to watch it be successful is even more, more rewarding. And so I've enjoyed it every minute.
That's great. Now, you had mentioned your high school counselor, and Miss McGee, I believe is her name.
Correct.
And also, there's an individual, the former chairman and CEO of DTE, Mr. John Labia.
Lobia.
How have those people impacted your life and kind of helped shape?
There's as you go through life, they're just people that either give you counsel or advice that for whatever reason you take it and you listen to it and it pans out. Miss McGee was the first person to tell me, I don't think the Air Force would be the best thing for you. And doggone if she's not right. I mean, yeah, I would have been a failure there. And probably miserable. And going to college was a rough road for me. I came from a very small town. I wasn't used to being in a big city or anything big. Not that Lawrence, Kansas is large, but compared to where I came from, it's huge.
Yeah.
When I got to DTE, I had a lot of different jobs, but where I really started to learn the most about the utility business was from John. He was a very good leader, and he probably more than anyone else that I know knew the utility business better. And he would sit down and just literally, let me bounce my ideas off of him and talk to me. And I treasured the 5 years that I reported to him because I learned so much. And those things, all add up. There's other people along the way that did a lot of things for me. My high school science teacher was just a great guy. He was the guy that got me kind of turned on to math and science, and so they play a role in there. So I've had some really fortunate turns in my life, and I had the opportunity to meet some people that could really make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like it. Now, with you've received the counseling, they've helped you set your career path, but obviously, I'm sure there've been some obstacles in your career. Can you tell us a little bit about those and how you overcame?
Well, I don't know that I ever overcame them.
Okay.
I just kind of worked through them. I think the hardest thing for me was, I graduated in a class of 43 students.
Oh, wow.
When you tell people that you don't have a role model, everybody has a different idea about that. I mean, my parents were role models that were both hardworking people, honest. But, I didn't know what an engineer did. I didn't know what an accountant did. For the life of me, I didn't even know what business did. All I knew is I just needed to get a job and make a living. And you kind of start off that day, and how I picked engineering is I went to a book and said, well, what has the best starting salary?
Okay.
And that's kind of,
that's how it started.
And somebody said, well, you're good in math and science, so why don't you try that out?
Yeah.
Got out of college and really didn't know what to do, but through a lot of perseverance to stick to it, and you came out the other side. I will tell you again, I'm extremely lucky that people think that it's hard work will get you ahead, and it only goes so far. Knowing people, I didn't. That only goes so far. In the end, there has to be some luck that comes into play, and I was fortunate too.
Yeah, great. It's just everything happening together, being at the right place at the right time, along with the right guidance and support from the people that you trust.
Right, and if you looked at all of the jobs that I had done over my career at DTE Energy, I couldn't think of a handful of people that could have competed with me for the job I got.
That's amazing.
It was just, it was never planned, it just happened.
Great. From a charitable perspective, you're involved with a bunch of different charities, Casual for a Cause, the Humane Society. Why are these important to you? Well,
number one, because I care, and I think that's the most important thing. The other thing is that, like the Casual for the Cause is actually run by our co-ops. So we have co-op students that come in, and when we try real hard at ITC to make the work experience that our co-ops and interns have a truly rewarding experience. And so I think one of the important things that I want ITC to be known for is that we're members of the community. You know, you get bashed up a lot when you're a business person, and you know, you're them versus us. And of course, no one wants to see these big, you know, transmission towers and stuff in their backyard, and building transmission like a lot of other infrastructure is really difficult today. Our goal is to be a part of the community, and so these charities and everything, putting my personal feelings aside, is very important to let people know that we're here. We're here to support them, to support the community. I personally am there for that. My want for the Humane Society is you need to go to Monroe. You need to go down the street and see where the Humane Society's at. And it's probably one of the most humble places you could ever have for anything, and how much they scrap for money just to make ends meet every day. And so, you know, I drive by there and I say, well, I can make a difference here. I'd like to make a lot of difference, you know, with helping kids, you know, especially underprivileged children, getting a better education, getting a better start. And so that's all part of our commitment to be part of the community, and I'd like to be part of it, and I'd like to do it by demonstrating it, so that, you know, it's not, we're not doing it to be, just tell people that's what we do. We're doing that because that's who we are.
That's who you want to be, and that's how you want everybody to perceive you. I couldn't agree with you more. You know, just being involved in the community and setting an example is much, you know, more powerful than serving lip service for a cause. If you were to look back at your career, you know, through charitable causes, through your family, through, you know, high school, was there any one defining moment or experience that just kind of helped shape everything?
You know, I think in my particular case, there were a lot of different things that all added up to the package in the end. There was never did I make one decision where I thought, oh man, that was it. You know, as I look back, when I was raising my family, I had a big commitment as my kids were smaller that you know, I was going to be there for all their sporting events. I wasn't going to let the business, the corporation, get in the way of that. I went through great endeavors to be there for their sporting events, for their academic awards or lack of academic awards. You know, when you got called in, when they had Parent-Teachers Day, I was there too. And I enjoyed that. My kids were truly rewarding to me. Business, I always cared about the outcome. I cared about the outcome. I cared about how things were perceived, and I'm very passionate about that. And so, you know, again, when I got done, it all added up in the end to, you know, I'm a person that cares about the outcome, and I'm a person that cares about other people, and so it just added up to get me where I'm at. Yeah,
exactly. So it sounds like, you know, when you had a family, you were very focused on your family. Can you tell us a little bit about your family?
Well, I just, you know, I have 4 children and a wife, and off and on a lot of dogs over the years, and so that's been the family. My wife nor I come from large families, and so, you know, and I relocated here from Kansas, and so as a result of that, all of my family's in Kansas, of which I only have a sister there. But my daughters and my son, they're all, you know, through college now and gainfully employed. And,
great.
You know, so, you know, it's been a long road, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, we have time for one more question today. And if you were to offer some advice to today's young people just coming into the world of business, media, politics, or education, what would you say to them?
I think the one thing that I would tell everybody is that you have to be doing something you love to do. If you don't like what you're doing, we can pay you more money. You'll be just as miserable as if you got paid nothing. And if you listen to the story that I told as to how I became a CEO, hard work, dedication, and all those other things, they count, but they're not the defining moment. You have to have a good dose of luck in there too. And when that's all said and done, not everybody's going to get that lucky moment. And so realizing that you may be someplace for a long time, you better be someplace that you enjoy and like being. So do what you enjoy, do what your heart calls you to do. The rest will work out just fine.
That's great advice. That's all the time we have today. Thank you for joining Joe Welch, CEO of ITC Transmission, and I on Novi Pulse. Please visit our website at www.novipulse.com for upcoming showtimes, to listen to previews of future guests, and to watch this and other programs at your convenience. I'm Greg Chapman, and you've been watching Novi Pulse.